Hurd is here with us. Okay, who do we have on the screen? Is Mario there? Is Mrs. Crum there?
Yes, we're both here.
Okay. You know, here's and the young lady is here, Mom is here, welcome. And first, I'm very sorry about the delay. As the parties in court here can tell, there were a couple kind of involved, difficult matters.
Your Honor, I hope you can hear Regina. She's on as well.
Oh.
Unbundled.
Hi. I'm a parent unbundled for Ms. Hurd today.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry.
Now, it is true that the court indicated that with these results, that that what I'm really concerned about is someone's honesty and whether they're going to concede beforehand that the results could be positive. But that presumes, though, that we're going to have a dramatically decreased baseline by the next time we test. And candidly, I'm kind of surprised at these staggering high levels in the urine positive for methamphetamine at 53,587 milligrams, amphetamine at almost 20,000, 19,564, barbiturates at 85. And for methamphetamine, high in the hair is over 10,000. So if we're at 53,587, we're about 5.5 times beyond that. So I think, and Ms. McConnell, you're representing Mom?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so I think we kind of need to turn to you and say, because the results kind of look alarming. She was honest to an extent about certain usage, but I don't think anyone was expecting this, or that she has prepared these level of readings. How do you think the court should deal with this information?
Well, I know my client has requested several times to get back to ATI. She actually went down there in January, and they said that they require court orders. So we would request that she go again today. But it's also my understanding that, she does have prescription medications, which she did mention in court, because I did watch the video.
Okay.
The barbiturates, however you say that.
Everyone has trouble with that.
Yeah. And then the amphetamines, Adderall, so that would need to be taken into account with regards to the outcome of any test results. She did produce, I know there's some exhibits attached, she did produce the Quest drug toxicology lab results. And I understand Ms. Crum's statement that that's not, it even states on there it's for medical use only. I don't know if that's just kind of Quest's way of saying, hey, we're not a drug testing facility, but it did show, none detected for, there are lots of marijuana, cocaine metabolite, alcohol metabolites, amphetamines, a lot of oxycodone, opiates. It all showed negative. So if the court does not want to accept this, I know my client is willing to go down to ATI.
Maybe that's what we need to do before we do anything substantive beyond that. Ms. Crone?
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, her subsequent test was urine only and didn't test for meth. Second, the court based its order on her high levels and her dishonesty. Frankly, she told you she hadn't used in 6 weeks to 2 months, and she was 5.5 times the level. And so we would like to just keep it in place, and I think if she's showing a negative test for a drug that's so addictive, that's alarming as well. There's so many people who have problems getting off meth. So we'd like for her to use options at her own cost or have some random for 6 months, just so that we make sure that this child's safe. Because of the nature of meth, this isn't like marijuana where she's just going to chill out. Like, meth is really dangerous, especially with a special needs child. So we'd like 6 months options at her cost. This court previously added some comments about some mental health concerns with Mom. There's just been some weird things that have happened while my clients tried to facilitate supervised visitation to make sure she still has a relationship. I'm honestly worried about him now and his well-being. I think if she could get him arrested, she would. I don't know if you want me to go into this now, but I really need a facility like Family First where Mom pays to have visitation there while we do drug testing for 6 months at her cost, and she paid for Family First. She has tried to walk away with the child. The police had to be called. She told the police false statements. She said Dad raped 10 women, and that he's committed domestic violence against her, and that he's very abusive. You addressed the previous recordings that mom illegally obtained. She tried to give those to the therapist. She told the therapist that he's a rapist. And she told the police officer that she's advised to keep the child away from dad. And this is all while we have sole legal, sole physical custody. I'm scared one day someone's going to believe her. But she's trying to taint everyone against him. She refused to provide medication, which she attached in her exhibit. She refused to provide the insoles in the child's shoes. All of this to the detriment of the child. And so I think even if her meth levels are low, there's still some mental health concerns with mom, especially if she's grabbing the child, she won't let go, and she walks away to where he has to call the police. So I've got to have a neutral place where he can walk the child in. She's not going in his car at all, and he can go in and get the child. And that she does random options. She stops telling providers that he's a rapist, which isn't true. So that maybe the transitions just can be easier if there's a third party. And so the cops, he sent the police to her house to get the child's inserts, medical inserts. She wouldn't give them to the police officer either. And so and she says in Talking Parents, which she submitted to this court, that basically her full-time job is being a mom. She still doesn't have a job, even though this court told her instead of putting devices on vehicles and recording devices in diaper bags that she could have gotten a job. She still doesn't have a job. It's very frustrating for my client, and frankly, he's nervous.
All right.
Your Honor,
Yeah, Ms.
I believe
Crum, we're looking towards some sort of, Ms. McConnell, we're looking at some sort of temporary supervised with an agency and random tests so we can see if the baselines are decreasing. And that's kind of what we're looking at. I don't know if you wanted your client to...
Can I speak?
She seems to want to speak, but I don't know if that's okay with you.
that's fine with me. I apologize I wasn't there because I was...
Okay. Your attorney says it's okay, but if your attorney interjects and indicates there's something you're discussing that she doesn't want you to discuss, then please...
As far as the levels from 3 months ago, none of us are authorized to make, especially an attorney, to interpret those. I would ask that I've tried to go down there. I physically went down to ATI. I've gone to my neurologist. I've been forthcoming with my therapist, with my neurologist, my primary doctor, Aslan's therapist, and my parents. I am absolutely clean. I have tried to get tested, and that's all I can do is through my neurologist. I have been forthcoming. As to those results, I've never seen them. I still to this day have not seen those results. I would like a medical professional to interpret them, not an attorney. My daughter has been in my sole custody her whole life, and now the 1 month that he has had her, she is not going to family therapies. You can see in the report the last time that she was there was January 6th. He's not taking her to extracurricular activities. Her behavior is degressing. Her teachers have noted that in the reports I've also
What
sent you.
activities is he not taking her to?
He's not taking her to dance, to tap, to her combo sports, none of them. And he says because with everything going on. My daughter's behavior has significantly degressed. Her teachers have noted this. This was in a video conference 2 weeks ago. You have the paperwork there. She is now acting out and hiding from them, running away from them. She's telling them no. My daughter's behavior, it did not ever digress in my care, Your Honor. And yes, I've admitted to what I've done, and I've asked on November 19th, I told Shaka, I understand the concerns that she has. I will submit to as many drug tests whenever they want, as randomly as they want.
But do you feel you have an issue? I understand what you're saying about that if you want a technician to interpret this, and
No,
I think
I
it's
don't have an
and I
issue.
get that you want. I thought you did want someone
Oh, I'm sorry.
skilled in this matter to interpret
Well,
these
yeah,
results. It's pretty clear what they're going to say because
Okay.
we rely on the information and data that those experts supply us as to the cutoffs and the levels and what's the debilitating level. And the method's about 10,000 nanograms and you're 53,000 and change. Do you feel that you have something that needs to be seriously addressed, or do you feel this is all overblown, or what do you think?
Your Honor, honestly, like,
Yeah.
that day at court, that, you kind of put me in my
Okay,
place.
but just
I
in
took it
general, what do you
seriously, and I
think?
went back to my therapist. I
Okay.
fully disclosed everything, the tracking devices, the audio, this is what I've
Okay,
done. Tell me
the
if I
tracking
need help.
device aside and all that, just
Right.
as far as what
But
you're ingesting
Okay.
on a regular basis,
No, I haven't.
What do you feel?
And I haven't since then, and I will not ever
did
again.
you feel you had
I
a
did it-
problem then?
I think I was self-medicating because I
Pretty
was in
some high
control
levels.
and I was being obsessed about the whole situation. I did it the wrong way. I was trying to control absolutely everything and I can't control it.
Well, even before litigation, were you,
No, no.
no,
And Your Honor, I just want to note for the record, that the order for, the pickup order was January 11th, but there was in Talking Parents where on January 24th, Dad told Mom, you can take her to ballet, you know, so he didn't have an issue at that time that Mom be alone with the child,
On
and then
that
I
issue,
believe it
your
was.
license is valid currently, isn't it?
I'm
Your,
sorry?
your driver's license,
Yes,
and
yeah.
your vehicle is registered and insured, timely,
Yes.
up to date, okay, all right.
And she does attend a recovery at a church, and she has asked that Aslan go with her because they do have it's called Celebrate Recoveries for the Adult, and I apologize, it's Celebrate Place? Kim, is that what it is for the children to
Celebration Place,
attend?
Yeah.
Okay,
Celebration Place.
I'm not gonna order, against someone's will, any sophisticated program now unless they acknowledge a problem, and they
Right.
wanna request it. But if she's saying that this is situational, has to do with the litigation, and that she's confident her baselines will dramatically decrease, if that's the approach you all wanna take, that's fine. What I would suggest is, I don't think Ms. McConnell, it's in her best interest for the court, even though we don't have a final order, for the court to set a custody trial now. I don't want her to conduct a custody trial at a time when we had these kind of test results and she's under supervised visits. But if we can send it out for supervised visits, if we get a report back that the visits are conducted appropriately and the supervision should be lifted, if we have that in conjunction with drug test results that are not concerning or would show a great improvement, then that would be the time where she's in a position to proceed with a custodial or a joint physical custodial request. Because I'm assuming you don't really want to, because I'm always concerned when these matters get set for a final trial, when someone's really behind the eight ball, and I think it's best if we try and normalize things a little first. So that
Yeah, no,
she-
I totally agree.
Okay.
I totally agree.
So we'll be out 3 months, and if the supervisions are lifted in 3 months, so temporarily the sole legal and sole physical continues with Dad. The drug levels are alarming. In fact, there was no amphetamine prescription was in fact declared or stated. We're gonna have a status check in 90 days on the supervised visitation. And once things stabilize, a custodial trial can occur if we don't have a final custody agreement. What would stabilization consist of? Number one, the supervision is lifted via a report, and number two, that the drug levels are no longer a concern. There was a request to set aside the emergency orders. That's not granted at this time. Attorney fees request against Mom is deferred. She can't afford to pay the other side's attorney fees, and she's gonna need the money for the supervised visits. If the SSI beneficiary, the derivative benefit for children is an issue, for Aslan is an issue at this point, her derivative benefit, at least the meantime, as long as Dad has temporary main custody, that benefit would go to him. The drug testing is random, and it's gonna have to be at Dad's expense, so he should only really request it. He has the right to request it once every 2 weeks if he wants. That would be 6 tests by the time we return, or just every month, spaced 30 days apart. That would be one test a month. If you could email Mom and Miss McConnell, if you email them by 10 o'clock on a given day before 10 a.m. that you want her tested, she has to test by 5 p.m. If they don't get the request till after 10 a.m., then she has till noon the next morning to test. And as far as the activities, Dad, he needs to take Aslan to her activities. Now, if he's saying there's no time to take her to all the activities, then we have to come to an agreement on which ones absolutely should be,
Right.
should be pursued at this juncture. We're gonna defer setting the trial until we return at our status and we see how we're progressing and I hope we're in a position, number one, where there's a report that enables the court to lift the supervision, which if the visits are
Yeah,
conducted
and
appropriately,
parents.
that'll be the case.
Okay.
And number two, we'll get to all that.
Okay.
Number two, that will, we have adequate, testing results. Now, at this point, I have a drug referral. I don't know if you wanted her sent to a drug test now. She's quite confident about it, is requesting it. Would you prefer, Ms. Crum, that you instead dispense with that, and he uses his limited funds to request the random test, either spaced one a month for 3 months or 2 a month for 6 total, 2 weeks apart? He doesn't always have to utilize all those, but he can test from up to 3 to 6 times. Because I'm not sure how far we're gonna get with the test today. She seems quite confident, which means he may be cynical and assume you got yourself well prepared and you've abstained,
Well,
and that you'll test okay, but he seems to wanna be
Right.
more interested in how would you test if it was unexpected, that type of thing.
Right.
So, but however you guys
correct.
wanna handle it, I don't,
no, we'd rather wait and just use the random judge.
Okay, so we'll
That's-
defer, we'll handle the random test, and do you wanna pursue Donna's House or Open Arms? Probably the best option is the Donna's House Central. Mom, do
Your
you
Honor?
want,
They thought for Aslan, since she's special needs, that maybe family first, if this court would allow that. It's in Henderson, which is close to both parties.
is that agreed?
It's,
That's fine, but I can't necessarily fill in the forms for that like we could at Donna's House or process them. If you guys can guide them through that, and
Sure.
we would agree on what, a visit a week, 2 visits a week, what?
we wanted 2 visits a week on Wednesdays, and then, is that Saturday or Sundays? Wednesdays 6 to 8, Sundays 11 to 1. And at mom's cost, it's like $30 an hour on Wednesdays.
As long as everyone understands, as long as it's with Families First, the court has no involvement. I can't fill in forms, I can't monitor, we can't follow through. So you guys all have to handle that and follow
Yeah.
through and make sure it all gets arranged.
I
Ms.
would just-
McConnell is what Ms. Crom's suggesting, and Mom would have to pay even though Mom's not paying support at this point, Dad is responsible for the drug testing, and it can be taxed back to her, but at least he has to advance the drug test results. That serves as a good protective mechanism to make sure someone isn't constantly bedeviling someone with a drug test that the other side has to pay for. It assures that he's going to use the request judiciously, or when he suspects that it might be strategically well-timed to do so, or that an incident occurred, or he believes she's under the influence, and if that, and hopefully that's never going to occur. So,
Your Honor, I'd
since
ask
the
you
tests are
to
going to be
address.
random, I don't think we'll, do we necessarily need to process a formal referral on random tests, or are they going to handle it?
I think.
It's all changed. Even during COVID, we stopped stamping people's arm and sending them over.
No
So
more
it's-
stamps, I believe they just
everything's
have to,
Before
changed.
we
they
had to
have
have,
to come in and get the slip unless you can send it at that.
Will
How does that work,
ATI
Michelle?
test without an order if they know it's related to a court
No.
case?
Now,
Okay.
come
Just
down
put a
there,
date on it?
try.
no.
Why don't you just, I could just say an open-ended referral that says, random tests, up to once a month upon presentation of the party.
Now,
Okay.
can I
That- yeah,
request
we could try
the
that.
father take her to family therapy and then
We'll get
he
to that.
also attend?
So whatever we're working on first now, up to once a month. Does he want 6 tests, a test every 2 weeks or once a month? Since he has to pay, once a month?
Talking,
Once
does he
a
want
month.
one? Okay.
Yeah, once a month,
Yeah,
we'll
that
pay.
makes sense.
I just don't catch up, how many thoughts you want to address and just.
I'm not sure what good this referral does, because it's not for specific reporting at this time. I just wrote up to once a month with Ms. Hurd to present herself when opposing party requests a random test. I don't know if that handles it or not.
Maybe we can use that, and then when Kimberly gets an email, she can take that with the email each time, and
Okay.
hopefully the that'll,
might
I mean,
work.
we can try. Yeah.
Okay, Mom was saying something about counseling, which was,
She has family therapy every Friday, and he's refused to take her since he's had
now,
it.
if he wants to blow off some of these activities, that's one thing, but if there's counseling, I think she probably would, you know,
There-
it's kind
He's
of
not blowing
limited
it
at the
off your-
approach with a 5-year-old, but it can still be highly beneficial for some
He's
5-year-olds.
denied it for the last 2 weeks.
Right.
I have her recommendations in there.
He's not blowing it off, but when
Pardon?
Mom shows up and says Dad's a rapist,
I've never seen
it's
that.
it's
happen.
kind of
Okay,
hard.
can we understand that Dad is to take her to counseling, and he's freed from that obligation if Mom or anyone else shows up during the session and accuses him of being a rapist, then he doesn't have to tolerate that environment and will suspend the counseling. So, you wouldn't be there for this anyway, right? You have no
No,
reason
but
to
it's
go.
for both.
Oh, I see.
It's because she
Family.
used to have.
You know, I can't
Your Honor,
control,
I'm not
I
saying
really
this.
can't, if this is something that's beneficial, and it sounds beneficial, if these are the kind of issues or accusations we're having, I can't make counseling sessions contingent on the content, which is confidential anyway. If it turns out that she's using her time to falsely accuse him of violent sexual crimes, and she's fixated on that and it turns out to be false, that's something that would presumably help your case and not hers. But I can't demand that neither side can say this or that. If anything, if you're looking to win a custody fight, to state it cynically, you should want people to say things that you think are irrational and false. Now, I mean, we could look at it that way. That being said, I certainly, from purely a best interest standpoint, though,
Right, but Your
if
Honor,
you-
with the
is it-
extra.
if you know, you get into this with the counselor. If somehow that's directly responsive to a topic you're discussing with a counselor, that's one thing. But you can't just like blurt out or bring up things like
I have
that
it,
if
Your
it's
Honor, and
not.
nothing's documented. It's lies. She has no proof to say anything, to show that I have said anything like this. This is all
Oh, okay,
complete lies.
if you haven't, then don't worry about it.
I'm
She's
glad
saying
she said
She's
that,
allowed to say it, and she
she's
keeps on
saying
it,
she
and it's
never
false.
accused him of that. If the
Okay,
counselor,
I'm glad
if
she
the
said that.
counselor thinks that
I would like
one or
Shopper
both,
to present the
I
proof.
think it's a self-correcting problem. If a counselor believes in his litigation case or a custodial fight that one party is conducting themselves inappropriately and therefore the counseling is pointless because one party is particularly obstreperous, they're gonna tell us about it. So if this is happening, it'll be a self-correcting problem because we'll get a letter from the counselor.
Your Honor, the extracurricular activities, Mom unilaterally enrolls the child, and then, and then says, Dad, you have to get him there. She's been doing
Anything that's
that.
long-standing that existed before these two were in conflict and in litigation presumably
Okay.
should continue.
Okay,
Anything
thank
someone
you.
decided to enroll the child in without consent of the other side while we're in litigation is probably a really bad idea because it's guaranteed the other side's not gonna
This was done
cooperate.
before, and this is continuing. We just have
So
to
make
prove
sure,
it.
if it's something that she's been in for months and months, predating this conflict, and he agreed with it, that's different. But if you're enrolling her in activities that he knows nothing about, and he's got the temporary custody, you can't necessarily require him to. Well, what specifically are we talking about? How many activities do you want him to take her to?
She has combo sports on Thursday from 5 to 6, and she has tap ballet on
Let's deal with that. Can
Saturdays
he
from 9
deal
to
with that,
10,
the sports
and their
on
calypso
Thursday,
from
5 to
March
6?
26th.
Is there any reason he can't
He
do
gets
that?
off of work at 5:00 p.m.
Okay. How about the tap, the dance? How about that? On what day?
Saturday, but please, Your Honor, no Carrie, please, because
Carrie who?
his girlfriend, she's been very hostile and abusive.
You
They
wanted
both
to
are.
take her, now you're trying to mandate the cast of characters. I mean,
I just-
are you gonna be there for it?
I would like to. I've been to
Okay,
the game.
tap lessons.
Tap lessons, I think she missed one, only because she went to a birthday party
I can't
instead.
mandate, okay, he'll take her to tap. I can't mandate who's there. If someone's gonna threaten you at a public event that's for the benefit of a child, that's probably, if you can document that, that probably helps your,
That's why I have them
that
here.
probably helps your
It is
case.
documented.
If
They're
he
right
has
here.
people who have zero self-restraint and they're gonna attack you verbally or whatever at an event, you make sure you document it. If it's serious enough, you call the authorities. If it's not quite serious enough, you get a statement from the witnesses or from the coordinator of the event.
Your
And
Honor,
then
I have
probably
this
once you
picture.
suck them into that though, she's gonna, her tenure as a TAP as a 5-year-old TAP student to that class is gonna end dramatically. Once we start, because by necessity, we have to tell them, okay, we don't want Carrie, we don't want this person, that, you know the first thing they're gonna say, we're not having anything to do with this. So, if you wanna mandate these people aren't there, that's fine, but I'm assuming, unless you operate in a different world than I do, I'm assuming these people are gonna want nothing to do with with anything where the adults of these young
Your Honor,
children, they're
they've
not making
both
enough
been
money, they're
hostile
not
to
making
me
enough
in
money to deal
public,
with this
in
BS.
front of my own parents.
Pardon?
I have my parents there and they're hostile toward, the cops called
Okay.
and did a verbal
But
warning
point,
to
and
them.
what did I just say? If that happens, hold on,
I have
if that
called
happens,
cops,
okay,
and I have
if you guys, if they see that kind of if third parties see that kind of behavior at something that's for the benefit of the children, they're not gonna do an analysis of who's what percentage culpable or at fault. They're just gonna say, we don't want anything to do with this student if this is the drama and trauma that we have to deal with. So, both parties agree to the TAP lessons, but Mom is saying she doesn't want Carrie, his significant other, there.
Just let her take her. I'd rather her go than not go.
Okay, she's saying if there's gonna be problems, Carrie can take her and Mom won't go, as long as there's a commitment that the TAP continues. She'll say, she'd love to be there, but she agrees not to be, as long as, so
May I
just,
please have pictures of that, that's it.
I just think there's no reason for them to communicate when they see each other at these extracurriculars, Judge. And it's silly that you have to order that, but they have talking parents, like they
they're
shouldn't
not,
be
if
communicating.
this is where we're at, we're making zero progress.
That's where we are, I'm
We're
telling you.
not- the best two words of advice for people sometimes, I don't mean to be disrespectful, is to grow up. These two are operating in a very distorted reality. If they think that anyone else in society cares about or is required to conduct themselves and make accommodations for this type of drama, they don't, and they won't. So if you guys want to agree to certain activities, that's great. But if you start saying, I don't want this person there, I don't want that person there, and I think that the owners of some studio are gonna have a big mess on their hand, then if I say, okay, she's not gonna get tap lessons, that has nothing to do with the court, that has to do with what you guys decided, because you can't put your differences aside. If he brings, you should be able to go and enjoy her. I know what it's like to children in these lessons and how rewarding it is for parents at that age. But that's where you need to put the focus. If you want to put the focus on, if she's there, she's going to attack me and yell at me, when actually, if anything, you should say, well, that's a great way to win my case if someone can't restrain themselves, does something stupid in public, and I
She's seen it
document.
enough. I don't want her to see the abuse anymore, Your Honor, and I don't want to subject her to that.
Okay, so your solution is what? On the tap? You don't want to go? You want
I
Carrie?
would like to go, but it's more important for my daughter to go
Okay.
than to not go.
Okay,
So
Ms.
I
Chrome,
will-
does he agree, if Mom doesn't go, does he agree to make sure she attends TAP every week?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, fine, good. What other I don't see why they can't all go and conduct themselves like human beings. Is there
Right.
some
It
reason
just
why
hasn't
someone
been
has to
happening.
say something to someone? Is there any reason you or her would have to talk to
I
each other?
didn't-
I was just gonna say, if they just remain away from each
Someone says
other.
something stupid, there is such a thing as saying, what, walking away from them? Walk
That's
away.
what I did Wednesday, they
Okay.
called the cops, and now they're presenting
If
me
you,
as
if
trying
they,
to take
if
the
they,
child.
let me promise you something. If they started disparaging you and verbally attacking you in public, and you calmly walked away, and they decided to call the cops, and the cops interviewed them and interviewed you, and support what you're saying, that's gonna help you in your case, if that's what that police report says. That police report is not going to say that, and you know it's not. You know that you will never have you don't have a police report, and one doesn't exist that says, they started yelling at me, because who's gonna call the cops if they're the ones doing all the antagonism? If you say absolutely nothing and walk away, they're gonna say, this isn't the strategic time to call the cops on her. We'll wait till we can get her goat and have her explode in front of people. They're not gonna call the cops on you when you calmly walk away. It defies logic. So there is
I
not
did, and
going
my
to be,
parents were there.
there's not gonna be a police report that says, these people who were screaming and harassing and threatening someone else called the police, and we've documented that they screamed and harassed and threatened. But if I'm wrong, go and pick up the report. That's great. Okay, what else? What other activities? These guys seem too committed to the conflict
I
and
think
blaming
this is-
each other for the conflict rather than trying to solve it. So, but
think it's just the combo
you're correct
sports.
that one step towards solving, and I think you do get it to a significant extent if you and her aren't there at the same time, and then we don't have to worry about it. Your daughter gets the benefit of the lesson. What other activities?
And they could always alternate if that's a big issue. Like, I mean, I understand right now it's
You guys are ahead of me. What other activities?
Combo
If not,
sports.
we'll move on. We're here
the
to
combo
talk.
sports.
No, what other activities besides dance or tap? I'll ask once more, then I'll assume no one has an issue, and I'll move
Although
on.
sports on Thursday, Miracle
Sports
League
on Thursday,
Saturday.
you heard what he said about it. I don't know
Miracle League on
I don't know how
Saturday.
valid it is, but that's what he said, that he can't. What did he say again? Why, was it work? He doesn't get off work
It's from
in time?
5 to 6. He doesn't get off till 5.
Can
He gets off work at
can-
5.
Can you mind if Kerry takes her to the? I mean,
Sure, I'd rather her go than not go.
she says if Dad can't, can Kerry take her?
If she's, like, I know she works too. I don't want to commit Carrie to something.
When does she?
The only
what's her
other
work
one that
shift?
we'll
While
agree to-
Dad's there. What's her work shift? Is Kerry available to take her on Thursdays? Dad knows the time of the sports on Thursdays. He knows when he works.
Right.
He knows when Kerry works. So let's ask him.
Carrie's job, it fluctuates, so I can't commit Carrie right
All right?
now,
Okay.
but
Okay.
if they
What
can,
other
they
activities?
will.
If you guys just work
They've
together,
agreed to
communicate
Miracle
on
League,
what-
and that's on the
what
weekends,
other
so she'll be.
What other activities?
Miracle League on Saturday.
I'm sorry.
Miracle League, it's gonna start on Saturdays, I've asked him, she's been in the last 2 seasons, it'll
If
start
she's
March
been, okay, if
26th.
this is something she's been in for 2 years and it's Saturdays, it has to continue. This isn't
Yep,
just something
he already
Mom
paid.
decided to
Connor,
enroll her
I
in.
wanna get along
Okay, that
with him.
continues. Okay, what other
He already
activities?
paid.
This.
What other activities?
First
That's it.
would be
What
normal.
are, any other activities? No?
Please.
Okay.
So-
Anything else? Does that cover it? Okay.
I just wanna work with him. I want
Understood,
to
and
incorporate
maybe
him.
you need a mechanism to do that, and
It-
I do think the parties, that would benefit from, sometimes the most important, we send out so many people are involved in marital therapy, but the real people who need therapy more than anyone else is people who are no longer gonna be together, where either the marriage is kaput or the relationship is, and they have to parent together for 12 or 14 years. But the problem we wind up with is usually there's significant others on one or both sides that doesn't want the parents spending that time together, even if it's under the auspice of a counselor, et cetera. So it's
And,
probably a
Your
good
Honor-
idea if these two are eventually able to meet with a counselor or therapist, because it's gonna go a long way, because we can't have this infantile fighting all the time. Okay,
Can I-
what other
Can I make
issues?
a,
I'm not
Can
gonna
I make
fill,
more
I'm not gonna
comments?
fill in its direct supervised report, I guess. It'll be at family.
Your Honor,
It's families first, which means we can't really fill in a report, right?
That's family first,
Oh, that's for families first?
Well-
Okay, what days did we agree on?
Wednesday and Sunday.
well, I
on
don't,
Wednesdays and Sundays. Wednesdays 6 to 8, Sundays 11 to 1.
Is it available? Wednesdays,
Yes.
6,
He already called. It's available.
I'm sorry, you
Pam,
said
are you-
Wednesday, 6 to 8, 6 PM?
6 to 8, yes, and
Okay.
Sundays 11 to 1.
And when?
And I would ask
you
if
said
you'll bring her
Sunday,
in.
11 to 1.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your Honor, I have a question. Is there any way that Ms. Hurd's parents can supervise the visitation? They're a great family. They have an 11-year-old child, which would be Aslan's cousin, and there's nothing that would prevent them from being supervising. And then I was also going to suggest maybe they could even, and I don't want to put them on the spot, but maybe they could take Aslan to the combo sports on the Thursdays if Dad can't do it.
Your Honor, there's a lot of blood between Kymberlie and her own parents, and they have a child who has issues in their home, acting out issues.
They're right
And
here
so
right
we
now.
just want to
They're here
stick
right
with
now.
it.
If-
Yeah, I know.
Maybe they'll agree to supervise it.
I know, but my client, I'm telling you, I wish they would have briefed it because we would have briefed all the reasons why it just won't work. And so I would ask Ms.
Well,
McConnell and I can
what are the
speak.
what's the main reasons it wouldn't work?
Well, I
The
know
reason
they
I'm
have.
The reason I'm required to ask is because supervision by family members, particularly like by grandparents, is by definition presumed to be 10,000 times better option than some sort of sterile 1 hour artificial environment with strangers hovering around. It's very unnatural. So unless you can point to some direct antagonism or that they'd abdicate their responsibility, because their responsibility, and they're here, I could canvass them, would be to the court and this child. Their allegiance cannot be to their daughter and their daughter's case, because the first hint I get that someone's siding with their daughter or son or helping them fight on their custody case or expressing any antagonism to the other side, I put a stop to it. But if they're mature adults who understand that their responsibilities is to this court and to Aslan and not necessarily what mom wants or demands, then it could be a way to go. So.
Well, I'll give you the brief version. It's my understanding they have custodial rights of their other daughter who is unfortunately a drug addict. They have one of her kids. That kid is vaping, is on marijuana, and they've been fine with it. And when they applied to be the adoptive parents for that child, Kymberlie objected because of their parenting.
Well, they don't.
That she has been.
You're saying they don't. You're not saying they smoke pot, though, right?
I'm saying that they supervise. They've
Okay.
known that their own now daughter, they adopted their granddaughter. That Kymberlie had such a problem with them that she objected to the adoption of them for her niece. On top of that, Kymberlie's.
Let's assume that's true. How do I know they couldn't loosely supervise? They wouldn't even have to be in the same room, in the same premises of 1 or 2 hours supervision, and make it clear to Kymberlie she can't drive off with Aslan and has to be within their focus at all times, or at least in the next room. I mean, you're telling me they may not be perfect people, no one is, but the call of the question isn't how wonderful or wholesome they may be at all times.
No.
The call of the question is, how do we know they would abdicate their responsibility to this court and to their grandchild and get involved with mom's drama to the detriment of their daughter's own custodial request? They'd only be destroying her custody case if they wanted to behave like that.
Well, their behavior so far since he received an order, they've been showing up at the supervised visitation. They called the last supervisor and asked. They wouldn't facilitate.
Was that okay with the supervisor, or did the supervisor
No.
put in writing that it was obstreperous or obnoxious or demanding? If they did, then
It's on. I just watched the recording of it the other day, Your Honor. And even when they tried to facilitate, she knew that it was over at 1 o'clock. They wouldn't help get the child back. Kymberlie's walking away with the child. They know that I assume they know that she's been on meth for a while. They've done nothing to help. It's 90 days. And I would just
All right.
ask this court to stick with
If
its
she gets a
original.
positive report from Families First, the court will either lift supervision, or if supervision is necessary to continue, we have to look at better options, such as the grandparents supervising. For the time being, we'll wait till we get a report, since we don't have an agreement on this. Okay. So
I've
those
just
are the
two quick issues.
Those are the orders today. Our return date is May 9th at 11. And Ms. McConnell agrees with this court that we should not set a trial at this time for mom to litigate for custody at a time when she's on supervised visitation and we have these kind of drug levels. We want to wait until it's fair to both sides and everyone has a reasonable shot at a custody trial. So that's defined as if she gets a positive report from Families First, and if the toxicology is no longer a concern, then she would be in a decent position to litigate her case if the parties don't settle, and I sure hope they reach a settlement of some sort. Have the parties ever
Your Honor,
actually been to mediation?
Yes, and I
We've
agreed with
tried
everything.
privately
Denied
twice,
it. I agreed
yeah.
with exactly what we had, and he.
Would mediation do any good? It would help keep the cost down. Both parties are
I would agree to go
engaged
again.
with paying a lot of money for lawyers, excellent lawyers, but the point being, excellent lawyers cost a lot of money. And maybe.
Sure, we would agree, especially if she has counsel with her. I think that would help
Mediation.
facilitate this.
I don't require Ms. McConnell to accompany her client.
Not
to
a
the
requirement.
mediation. If she wants to, that's
But-
fine. We could
Are you
have a
talking about
mediation
FNC?
referral with the same return court date for May 9th. Mom indicates this young woman says she'd be more than happy to discuss it. So, opening a dialogue.
Your Honor,
and all
can he? Your Honor, he's going to file taxes for 2021,
So
and
you
since she
agree
didn't
to, do you
work.
guys agree to attempt mediation?
Yes,
Okay.
Can I just make it clear, are we talking about Family Mediation Center or private?
Let's assume the one here, but you can certainly
Okay.
suggest a private.
No, that's fine. I wanted,
Okay,
Ms. Hurd.
Mom, you kind of have to prepare for what's coming next, something about, it's gonna be who claims Aslan for 2021, and he either intends to do so or already has, so I think you figured out that that's what's coming next. Go ahead.
yeah, Your Honor, she hasn't worked since the inception of this case. Obviously, it would benefit my client a lot more to have the ability to claim the minor child. I would just ask for a clear order relating to that so that he can move forward with filing his taxes.
I mean, you heard the previous case where someone earning enough to benefit, and you're,
He doesn't mind helping out, Your Honor,
Okay.
he
But
hasn't paid child support.
this
in a
doesn't mean that for 2022 or 2023, who knows? I don't know what the custodial arrangement will be. Maybe you'll be able to claim every year or every other year. But just for this time, for 2021, since apparently are you in fact filing taxes, or you didn't earn enough to?
No,
Okay, so we don't want to waste that exemption, so the earned income tax credit will go to Dad. Okay.
The last thing, Your Honor, is on December 27th at 10:40, Mom filed an Exhibit 2. And then on January 19th at 3:47, she filed an Exhibit 2. I'm just asking the court to strike those exhibits. They're settlement offers made by Mom. And so she filed them twice on
Yeah, but
December
if you want me-
27th.
If you want me to strike them, I have to review them and determine their settlement offers, and then if I determine their settlement offers, the damage, whatever taint or damage or prejudice that occurs by the court being privy to it would occur. Right now, I haven't read them, so,
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Okay, thank you.
and I'm not going to
and
now that I know they include settlement offers.
Okay, thank
That
you.
said, we want the parties to be discussing settlement offers, but until you reach a final settlement, the court's not supposed to know
yeah.
what was
Your Honor, I
discussed.
tried, they don't respond
Well, you're gonna
back.
get another chance, because did we do the mediation referral?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your Honor,
So we're loading these guys up with a few different things. Number one, which they don't have to worry about today or right now, the random drug test form, but we have the Families First form, and then the mediation form. That's the one you have to get set up with right away upon receipt.
I'll tell them where they're at.
Kymberlie, are you gonna be able to assist, the payment of the Family First? That was my only concern.
Well, Your Honor, one thing that's never been addressed is child support. He
Well,
owes since
well,
last
yeah,
March.
unfortunately, this isn't the time to address it, because if I address it, the order would be against you, and so you shouldn't
So
be.
you-
We don't
can I
want to
just
have a
talk to you later
discussion
about it?
about you paying support, so we're not going to. In lieu of support, you can pay
That's fine,
Families
that's fine.
First.
Just whatever, yes. that's
But we'll deal
Okay.
with it eventually. Support will flow once the final,
But
did you
It was
provide her the
supposed to last
form?
year, and it's never has, because the attorneys can't agree, because she will
If they
not
don't agree, if
agree.
you're owed any sort of support, such as back support, it's all gonna, she has, we'll get it all figured out
Okay, I
eventually. We got
appreciate
much
that.
bigger fish to fry right now,
I
so
hear you.
it'll all get handled.
Thank
Just
you.
keep your records in order, so
Alright.
you know. All right, Ms. Crum, or are you able to prepare the order, or Ms. McConnell, do you
Sure,
prefer
I'll give it
to,
to
or?
Ms. McConnell.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms.
All right,
McConnell, you've
thank
been
you, Judge.
drafted for that purpose, it seems, okay. All right, you don't mind preparing?
Oh. No, I said I would. I'll get it to
Oh, I
Ms.
see,
McConnell.
okay,
That's
I'm
fine.
sorry, okay. Ms. Crum, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. All right, thank you.
Thanks so much. Is this discovery thing for March 2nd still on calendar?
No, we're getting the order to you. They made an order that she has to comply.
So we can
So-
vacate the March 2nd hearing that the commissioner set?
I would like
Yeah,
to keep
I already
that,
did.
Because I feel like it's excessive, the questions, and a lot of them aren't
She,
relevant.
well, I will leave all that to your attorney. If your
Okay.
attorney believes there's no point in having that hearing and you're concerned about excessive questions that we handled in some other forum, I'll let your attorney decide what's the most expeditious, economic way of handling it. Ms. McConnell, do you wish that hearing to remain on calendar, or do you want to resolve these discovery disputes between you and Ms. Crone?
My understanding is Commissioner Young already took it off
Oh.
calendar and issued.
It's
Because
still-
my
it's-
client
yeah, it's still
didn't
showing
know.
up. It's still on, I think. So,
My client didn't know, and she didn't file an opposition because she wasn't aware of what was going on, because
Okay.
she was working on this portion of it.
So you're finalizing the information?
I think Ms.
So we can vacate it then, right?
I'm discovering.
Yes,
that they-
I thought it already was.
Can we,
They have to make sure they got the R&R before they vacate it usually.
he won't vacate.
Oh,
until
that's
we-
the status.
Yeah.
Can
Oh,
we get
okay.
That's the
the
status.
report recommendations?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
appreciate it. Okay, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor.
Contact your attorney, she'll let